On the evening of June 29, 2025, during a nationally televised town hall in Atlanta, former U.S. President Donald J. Trump made a remark that would ignite one of the most polarizing media firestorms in recent memory. The comment, delivered with apparent offhandedness, came during a live question-and-answer segment moderated by conservative host Matt Lawson. The subject had shifted to influential figures in American media when Trump, unprompted, referenced Oprah Winfrey. "Let's be honest," he said, gesturing with an open palm. "Oprah's only famous because she's black and good at whining. That's it. Take away that, and what's left?" The audience, largely comprised of Trump supporters, responded with a mix of laughter, scattered applause, and some audible discomfort. Lawson, caught off guard, attempted to pivot the discussion, but the moment had already registered, captured in real time by millions of viewers, live streams, and journalists in attendance. Within minutes, social media erupted. Clips of the statement circulated rapidly across platforms, accompanied by hashtags like #TrumpOnOprah, #RacismLive, and #NotJustWhining. Several prominent voices in media, politics, and entertainment, both liberal and conservative, issued immediate reactions, ranging from outrage and condemnation to defense and deflection by midnight. All major cable news networks had cut into programming to cover the incident. CNN labeled it a racially charged attack. Fox News framed it as a controversial but characteristic Trump moment. MSNBC referred to it as a reflection of deeply rooted bias. Even international outlets like the BBC, Al Jazeera, and The Guardian gave it front-page coverage online. But beyond the spectacle, the statement touched on something deeper: the persistent intersection of race, gender, media power, and political rhetoric in America. What exactly did Trump mean? Was it a deliberate attack or an impulsive slip? What are the historical and cultural implications of such a claim? And how did Oprah Winfrey herself respond? This investigative report will unpack the incident with precision and fairness. Through interviews with media analysts, political figures, historians, and members of the public, we will examine not only the moment itself, but also the broader consequences. We'll trace Trump's history with Oprah, analyze the racial subtext of the remark, investigate public reaction across ideological lines, and assess the political ramifications as the 2026 midterms approach. What began as a single, off sentence has become a litmus test for the national conscience, whether seen as an instance of racism, media manipulation, or political strategy. The remark demands scrutiny. This is not a story about outrage. It's a story about how language from a powerful figure reverberates through a divided society, and what that tells us about where America stands today. Long before Donald Trump entered the political arena, his relationship with Oprah Winfrey was characterized more by mutual admiration than animosity. In the 1980s and 1990s, the two often appeared in each other's media spaces. Trump was a guest on The Oprah Winfrey Show in 1988 and again in 2011. While Oprah frequently referenced Trump as a symbol of wealth and self-made success, during her interviews with guests who aspired to financial independence, during an appearance on her show in 1988, Trump was asked whether he would ever run for president. He replied non-committally but didn't rule it out. Interestingly, he praised Oprah as a potential running mate, saying, "I think Oprah would be great. I'd love to have someone like that." Their mutual visibility made sense at the time. Trump was then primarily a businessman and media personality, and Oprah was already an icon in daytime television. Both represented uniquely American success stories, though through very different lenses. Trump, the brash real estate mogul; Oprah, the empathetic storyteller who turned personal hardship into cultural influence. But the tone of their relationship shifted sharply in the years leading up to the 2016 presidential election, as Trump's campaign rhetoric grew more combative and polarizing, particularly around issues of race, immigration, and media integrity. Oprah's public silence became increasingly conspicuous, though she rarely commented directly on Trump. Her endorsements of Democratic candidates like Barack Obama in 2008 and Hillary Clinton in 2016 suggested where her political sympathies lay. In 2018, when Oprah delivered a stirring speech at the Golden Globes in support of the #MeToo movement, speculation emerged that she might run for president. Trump was asked whether he thought she would be a serious contender. His response was dismissive. "Yeah, I'll beat Oprah. Oprah would be a lot of fun. I know her very well. I did one of her last shows." The cordiality was gone. Over the following years, Trump began lumping Oprah in with what he frequently referred to as the fake news media elite, criticizing her interviews with Democratic politicians and suggesting she had lost her touch. Meanwhile, Oprah maintained a deliberate distance, choosing not to respond to Trump's comments directly. Insiders close to both figures confirmed to this investigation that while no formal fallout ever occurred, the personal warmth had evaporated. According to a former executive at Harpo Studios, Oprah viewed Trump's political transformation as a betrayal of values she once believed they shared: personal drive, yes, but also dignity, respect, and responsibility to the public. For Trump, Oprah's increasing alignment with liberal causes likely positioned her, in his eyes, as part of the establishment he campaigned against. And in an era where cultural capital often equates to political influence, Oprah became not just a public figure but a symbolic opponent. The June 29th comment, therefore, was not an isolated jab. It was the culmination of years of ideological and cultural divergence. What began as mutual recognition between two media titans had, by 2025, evolved into a public Cold War punctuated by moments of passive dismissal and ultimately outright verbal attack. In the next chapter, we'll examine the immediate media fallout following Trump's remark and how different outlets across the political spectrum framed the controversy within hours of the broadcast. In the first 24 hours following Trump's controversial statement about Oprah, the machinery of American media kicked into overdrive. What might have once been relegated to a minor scandal quickly metastasized into a full-fledged political and cultural flashpoint. The speed and framing of coverage revealed as much about the nation's media ecosystem as it did about the remark itself. Cable networks were among the first to break in with real-time analysis. CNN's Chiron within minutes read, Trump launches racially charged attack on Oprah Winfrey. Their primetime panel featured sociologists, media scholars, and civil rights advocates who unpacked the comment's racial subtext. Anchor Don Harper called it an egregious example of coded language used to demean a powerful Black woman. Over at Fox News, the tone was markedly different. Their banner read, Trump questions Oprah's celebrity status. In a segment hosted by Rachel Myers, analysts dismissed the backlash as a typical liberal overreaction. One commentator argued that Trump's statement was clumsy but not racist, insisting that the real issue was the media's obsession with identity politics. MSNBC, meanwhile, dedicated nearly 40% of its evening programming to the story, inviting longtime commentators on race and media, including Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Gloria Stevens. Her analysis emphasized the historical weight of the phrase "only famous because she's Black," noting how such rhetoric has long been used to undermine Black excellence in America. Online platforms moved even faster and in many ways set the tone for public reaction. On Twitter now, X trending tags emerged within an hour. Hashtag Trump is racist, hashtag Oprah respect, and hashtag Black women in media. Influencers and celebrities like Ava DuVernay, Shonda Rhimes, and LeBron James posted swift condemnations, while right-wing figures like Candace Owens and Matt Walsh defended Trump and criticized what they called manufactured outrage. YouTube and TikTok became battlegrounds of interpretation. On the right, creators posted videos with titles like Trump tells the truth about Oprah and the left melts down, while left-leaning channels countered with why Trump's comment isn't just offensive, it's dangerous. Some of the highest-performing content came not from traditional journalists, but from digital personalities with millions of followers. Further complicating how the story reached and influenced different audiences, algorithms played a key role. According to early analytics reports from Media Radar and TrendWatch, content with the word Oprah in the title saw a 300% increase in click-through rates in the 12 hours following the broadcast. This created a feedback loop. Media outlets and content creators had a strong incentive to cover, reframe, and escalate the controversy to capitalize on audience engagement. Fact-checking organizations like PolitiFact and Snopes weighed in as well. While the quote itself was accurate, multiple recordings confirmed Trump's exact words. Interpretations of its intent varied wildly. Snopes rated the claim that Trump called Oprah unqualified and only famous for being Black as mostly true, noting that the original phrasing lacked broader context but reflected a dismissive and racialized framing. In the end, it wasn't just Trump's comment that made headlines, it was the media's immediate fragmentation in response. The divergent interpretations highlighted how political affiliation increasingly determines not just what Americans believe, but what information they receive in the first place. The outrage and defense that followed Donald Trump's remark about Oprah Winfrey did not occur in a vacuum. To understand why such a statement struck so deeply into America's social and political nerve, one must examine the cultural terrain over which it landed. This wasn't just about Trump or Oprah. It was about race, gender, media, and the persistent struggle over who gets to define American success. In American cultural life, Oprah Winfrey occupies a singular position. She is not merely a media personality. She is a symbol of triumph over adversity, a billionaire who emerged from poverty and abuse to become one of the most influential figures of the 20th and 21st centuries. Her public image, carefully built over decades, is rooted in empathy, empowerment, and authenticity, values that resonate across political and racial lines. Though not without criticism for Black Americans, particularly Black women, Oprah's success represents something greater, proof of possibility within a system that has historically excluded them. To suggest that her fame is reducible to race and emotionality, as Trump did, is not only inaccurate but inflammatory. It echoes long-standing stereotypes that have minimized the accomplishments of Black individuals by attributing their success to tokenism, affirmative action, or public sympathy rather than merit. These comments cut deep, said Dr. Ayanna Moore, a professor of cultural studies at Howard University. In an interview for this report, they tap into centuries-old narratives that suggest Black success is unearned or exaggerated. Oprah isn't just a celebrity, she's a cultural institution, and dismissing her in this way feels like an attack on every Black woman who's ever had to fight twice as hard for recognition. From a gender perspective, the phrase "good at whining" also carried weight. Critics pointed out that emotional intelligence and personal vulnerability traits Oprah is often praised for are frequently devalued when expressed by women, especially in leadership roles. The implication that empathy is synonymous with weakness feeds into broader debates about the gendered expectations placed on public figures. For many conservatives, however, the backlash was interpreted through a different lens: censorship, cancel culture, and hypersensitivity. In several right-wing media forums, the dominant narrative was that Trump had merely stated an uncomfortable truth, that identity politics has played a role in shaping public perception and was now being punished for saying so aloud. It's not racist to question why someone is famous, said conservative commentator Brent Wallace on his syndicated podcast. It's free speech. The left doesn't want anyone challenging their idols, and that's exactly what Trump did. This division speaks to a broader cultural split. On one side, those who see structural inequality and the need to protect and elevate historically marginalized voices. On the other, those who view this focus as an overcorrection that stifles open dialogue. The truth, as is often the case, lies somewhere in between. Trump's words were not issued in isolation. They were shaped by decades of racial and gender discourse, and they resonated with distinct segments of the population for very different reasons. His critics saw the comment as a dog whistle. His supporters saw it as a dare. That's what made the moment so potent. It wasn't just a remark, it was a referendum on identity influence and who gets to speak in America. Within 48 hours of Donald Trump's comment about Oprah Winfrey, reactions began filtering through the political establishment. While the media had swiftly polarized around the issue, elected officials and party leaders faced a more complex dilemma: respond and risk alienating a portion of their base, or remain silent and risk appearing complicit from the Democratic side. Condemnation came swiftly and predictably. Senator Cory Booker DeJong called the comment deeply disrespectful and racially coded, adding in a press release, "Oprah Winfrey's success is not an accident, it's the product of extraordinary talent, vision, and integrity." Trump's words are a transparent attempt to discredit what he does not understand or cannot control. Representative Ayanna Pressley, DMA, delivered a pointed floor speech in the House, calling Trump's remark a textbook case of misogynoir, referring to the specific intersection of racism and sexism directed at Black women. Her words were echoed by the Congressional Black Caucus, which issued a joint statement condemning the dehumanizing language and urging Republican leaders to publicly disavow such rhetoric. But on the Republican side, the response was more fragmented. Prominent figures such as Senator Tim Scott, RSC, one of the few Black Republicans in the Senate, declined to comment directly. His spokesperson issued a brief statement encouraging all Americans, regardless of party, to engage in conversations about race with humility and honesty. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, a declared 2026 GOP presidential hopeful, was pressed on the issue during a town hall in Des Moines. "I don't agree with what the president said," she admitted cautiously. "Oprah has been a force in American life, but I also think we should be careful not to overreact to every statement, because the country has real problems to solve." Her attempt to straddle both camps was met with tepid responses from both conservatives and moderates. Other Republican leaders adopted a strategy of deflection. House Speaker Mark Feldman refused to address the comment directly, stating only that the media loves to distract from Biden's failures with old. Meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, seen as a possible rival in the 2026 primaries, avoided direct comment but reposted an article on X titled "Media Pounces on Trump." Again, here's what they're not covering. Trump himself rather, then retract or clarify his statement, doubled down. In a post to Truth Social, he wrote, "The fake news is freaking out because I told the truth about Oprah, something most people are too scared to say. The radical left wants to silence anyone who questions their idols. Not going to happen." The strategy was familiar. Controversy is currency. For Trump, backlash from liberal and moderate circles only served to reinforce his message to his base that he was speaking inconvenient truths the establishment feared. And in that context, even silence from Republican leaders became a form of quiet affirmation behind closed doors. However, GOP strategists expressed concern. According to sources at two major conservative political action committees, there were fears that the comment the media storm surrounding E could undermine Republican efforts to appeal to suburban voters and independents, especially women and voters of color. "Every time Trump makes one of these remarks, we lose a little more of the middle," said one senior advisor, speaking anonymously. "But no one wants to be the first to confront him. That's the trap." In contrast, some Democrats saw the controversy as a rallying point. PACs, linked to progressive causes, quickly launched fundraising campaigns tied to the incident, using slogans like "Stand with Oprah," "Reject hate." As political fault lines deepened, the episode underscored a central truth of the Trump era, that even a few words, when spoken from a platform as large as his, can shift the national conversation, redraw partisan boundaries, and leave political leaders scrambling to keep pace. As the media dissected and politicians calculated, ordinary Americans reacted in ways that were deeply personal. From high school classrooms to barbershops, churches to college campuses, the ripple effect of Trump's words about Oprah Winfrey reached far beyond Washington, D.C., igniting a wave of civic response across the country in major cities like Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Peaceful protests and community vigils were organized within days. A rally in downtown Atlanta drew more than 3,000 participants, many carrying signs that read, "Black success isn't an exception and we are not just good at whining." Speakers included local educators, clergy, and civil rights activists, some of whom had previously marched in support of causes like Black Lives Matter and educational equity. "We're not just reacting to Trump," said Karen Holloway, a school counselor who helped organize the Atlanta event. "We're standing up for every Black child who is told they're not enough, because when he talks about Oprah that way, he's talking about all of us." At Spelman College, a historically Black women's institution in Georgia, faculty held a panel discussion titled "The Price of Dismissal: Race, Gender, and Power in Public Discourse." Students engaged in open forums, some expressing frustration, others drawing hope from Oprah's continued grace under pressure. Smaller towns had their own dialogues, less visible, perhaps, but just as meaningful. In Elkhart, Indiana, a multi-faith clergy group organized a roundtable titled "Respect in the Public Square." In New Hampshire, a high school teacher reported turning Trump's remark into a teachable moment, asking students to debate whether public figures have a responsibility to uplift rather than denigrate. Yet reactions were not uniform. In more conservative regions, the response was often muted or defensive. In Boise, Idaho, a local talk radio show devoted its entire programming day to defending Trump. Callers dismissed the outrage as political theater, and several expressed the view that Oprah's media legacy had long shielded her from criticism. "He just said what everyone else is thinking but is too afraid to say," one caller insisted. On social media, sentiment broke down along partisan and demographic lines. According to an early survey conducted by Pulse Public, 72% of self-identified Democrats viewed Trump's comment as racist and inappropriate, while only 18% of Republicans agreed. Among independents, opinion was more evenly split. 41% called the remark racially insensitive, while 39% felt it was blunt but valid. Interestingly, age and gender were significant factors. Among women under 35, disapproval was highest, at 84%. Black women across all age groups overwhelmingly disapproved, with 91% calling the statement offensive. Among white men over 50, support for Trump's honesty was highest, at 67%. While many Americans shared their opinions online, others reached out to Oprah directly. Her foundation, the Oprah Winfrey Charitable Trust, reported a sharp uptick in letters and messages, most expressing solidarity and gratitude. One handwritten note read simply, "You've changed lives. Don't let anyone diminish that." Oprah herself remained largely silent in the days following the incident, issuing only a brief message through her spokesperson. Ms. Winfrey is focused on her work and on the communities she serves. She believes the American public is wise enough to see beyond empty noise. In many ways, that silence became its own form of resistance. Where Trump provoked, Oprah withheld. Where he attacked, she disengaged. For her supporters, this wasn't weakness, it was strategy, and it only strengthened their resolve. Donald Trump's comment about Oprah Winfrey did not emerge from a vacuum. It fits within a long historical pattern where public figures, especially women of color, have been undermined through coded language and racialized stereotypes. Understanding this pattern sheds light on the deeper implications of the remark and why it provoked such intense reactions historically. Black women in America have faced a unique intersection of racial and gender-based discrimination, often encapsulated in the concept of misogynoir, a term coined by scholar Moya Bailey to describe the specific prejudice directed at Black women. This discrimination manifests through stereotypes such as the angry Black woman, the welfare queen, or the sassy sidekick, all tropes used to invalidate voices and discredit leadership in the realm of public discourse. Dismissive language has often been weaponized to silence and marginalize. The phrase "good at whining," as used by Trump, echoes a long tradition of portraying Black women's legitimate grievances as mere complaints or emotional excess, thus negating their substance. Oprah Winfrey herself has publicly addressed similar challenges throughout her career. In her 2018 Golden Globes acceptance speech, which many saw as a defining moment for the #MeToo movement, Oprah acknowledged the resistance she had faced from those who sought to minimize her influence. For too long, women, especially women of color, have been told to stay quiet, to accept less, she said. Political figures have frequently employed such tactics to maintain power structures. For example, during the civil rights era, Black female leaders like Fannie Lou Hamer were often dismissed in mainstream media as angry or hysterical, despite their articulate advocacy. More recently, prominent politicians like Stacey Abrams have faced similar character attacks, intended to question their legitimacy. This pattern is not exclusive to race and gender. It extends into class and other identity markers, where marginalized groups' successes are often framed as undeserved or based on favoritism. Rather than merit, media experts explain that such rhetoric serves two primary purposes: to erode the credibility of the individual and to sow doubt among the public about the legitimacy of broader social movements. Dr. Harriet Collins, a media historian at Columbia University, explains, when powerful figures reduce a complex individual to simplistic stereotypes, they aren't just attacking that person, they're undermining entire communities and movements. It's a tactic designed to maintain the status quo by discouraging dissent and delegitimizing calls for change. Trump's statement about Oprah therefore fits a disturbing pattern, one that resonates with historical precedents and contemporary dynamics alike. It is less about Oprah personally and more about what she symbolizes: Black female empowerment challenging entrenched power. Recognizing this context is essential to understanding why the comment was perceived as more than a mere insult. It was an attempt to delegitimize a symbol of progress through a coded, racially charged dismissal. Oprah Winfrey's reaction to Donald Trump's remark was notably measured, reflecting a long-standing approach of combining grace with strategic silence. Rather than responding with public outrage or direct confrontation, Oprah chose to focus on her work and let her record speak for itself. Her spokesperson released a brief statement shortly after the incident. Ms. Winfrey is focused on continuing her philanthropic efforts and supporting the communities she has long served. She believes the American people will see beyond divisive rhetoric. This succinct message avoided engaging with the inflammatory nature of Trump's words, signaling a preference to rise above the fray. Media analysts suggest that restraint is deliberate. Dr. Lisa Reynolds, a communications expert at Stanford University, explains, Oprah understands the power of silence in a media-saturated environment. By not reacting, she denies the controversy, the fuel of direct conflict, and maintains control of her narrative. Furthermore, Oprah's philanthropic and cultural projects continue to influence millions. The Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa, her OWN network, and her recent ventures into digital media reinforce her ongoing commitment to empowerment and storytelling. Public figures who have experienced attacks similar to Trump's often face and risk escalating conflict or remain silent and risk seeming indifferent. Oprah's choice has generally aligned with the latter, emphasizing long-term influence over short-term battles. The silence also resonates with her broad audience. For many, Oprah symbolizes resilience and dignity, qualities that have helped her maintain a diverse and loyal following. In a polarized environment, this approach strengthens her role as a unifying figure. While some critics have called for a stronger denunciation, the majority of Oprah's supporters view her measured response as consistent with her legacy, transforming personal challenges into opportunities for uplift rather than division. As the dust settles from the immediate fallout, the long-term implications of Donald Trump's comment continue to unfold. The incident illuminates ongoing tensions in American society around race, media, and political discourse, raising important questions about leadership, influence, and public conversation. For Trump, the episode reaffirms his continued role as a divisive figure who commands attention through provocation. His base often rallies around his unfiltered style, viewing such remarks as a rejection of political correctness. Yet this approach also deepens the fissures in an already fragmented electorate, potentially complicating efforts to build broader cohesion. For Oprah Winfrey, the incident serves as a reminder of the challenges that come with being a cultural icon at the intersection of race, gender, and power. Her legacy remains largely intact, bolstered by her grace and the unwavering support of millions. But the episode also spotlights the persistent need for society to reckon with embedded biases and the rhetoric that perpetuates them. Media institutions to face reflection. The polarized coverage and algorithm-driven amplification demonstrate how contemporary news cycles can escalate isolated statements into national crises, shaping public perception in ways that extend beyond the facts. More broadly, the controversy highlights the urgent need for civility and respect in public discourse. The capacity for words to wound or unite depends on how society chooses to respond, not only to political leaders but to one another. Community leaders, educators, and activists have an opportunity to channel this moment into meaningful dialogue about identity, representation, and the power of language. Several organizations have already begun initiatives aimed at fostering understanding and bridging divides, signaling a hopeful path forward. As the nation approaches the 2026 midterm elections, these dynamics will remain central. The intersection of celebrity, politics, and race will continue to influence campaigns, media narratives, and voter attitudes. Ultimately, this incident is a case study in how a few words uttered by a former president can expose both the deep challenges and the enduring hopes of a country still striving to define itself. If you found this investigation insightful, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth reports and unbiased news coverage. Your support helps us continue bringing you the facts behind the headlines. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.